I think leadership is also very brave, you know, to be able to put yourself aside for the purpose of service, you know, and just being able to navigate your own emotions and like share that weight, and to be able to trust the people around you, and in return to be able to learn, and to also just be able to rest and rely and depend on something outside of yourself, which is so healthy, in a healthy way. It's inspiring.
Welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast, where we dive into conversations that inspire personal growth, transformation, and clarity in challenging times. I'm your host, Lisanne Basquiat. Hi, friends. Really quick before you listen to this episode, if you haven't already, please make sure to go to YouTube and subscribe to our Shaping Freedom YouTube channel. And make sure that you like this episode and share it after you've listened to it. All right, go ahead, do it now, and let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Shaping Freedom with Lisanne Basquiat podcast, where we focus on emotional wellness, identity work, and the sacred responsibility of shaping our lives, our legacies, and the stories that we carry forward. Today, I have the honor of creating conversation space with two men whose presence, integrity, and artistry reflect the very heart of that mission. Kofi Siriboe is an award-winning actor, filmmaker, and producer, and cultural force whose body of work reflects depth, nuance, and truth, shaping how we see and honor the fullness of Black masculinity. We've seen him in Girls Trip, Really Love, Meet Me Next Christmas, Harlem, and more. And his portrayal of Ralph Angel in Ava DuVernay's Queen Sugar earned him 5 NAACP Image Award nominations. Kofi's off-camera work speaks just as loudly. Through his short film series, What the Fuck is Mental Health, and his production company, Via Kofi, Kofi is curating space for Black men to be seen in their full emotional and spiritual humanity. Kofi, through his art, is curating a much-needed conversation that challenges outdated narratives about Black masculinity and emotional expression. Josiah David Jones is a writer, curator, and creative strategist who founded Valence Projects, an independent curatorial platform that reimagines how fine art and Black storytelling are experienced and valued. Through Valence, Josiah is bridging the gap between culture and commerce, amplifying artists whose voices challenge traditional narratives and create space for deeper truth. His work involves not only curating exhibitions, but also strategically positioning artists and their work within the broader cultural and commercial landscapes. Together, Kofi and Josiah recently co-curated Black in Every Color, Art in Every Form, a powerful exhibition that opened in both Los Angeles and New Orleans. The project is a celebration of Black art across disciplines and generations. I saw it. It was amazing. Today, I'd like to talk about creative integrity, mental and emotional wellness, identity, and what they, through their individual and mutual journeys, hope to spark in the audiences who watch them. What makes this conversation special is not just who these men are or what they do, but about what they both model: strength, creativity, brotherhood, identity, and the real work of shaping freedom on your own terms. Welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast.
Thank you. That was the most eloquent, beautiful intro I've ever had. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You wrote that yourself, Lisanne?
I did write that myself. I wrote it late last night, actually.
Very gorgeous. Very appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the fact that both of you have taken time out of your busy schedules to come and have this conversation. I wanted to have this conversation with you because I was in the room, as I mentioned before, during the Black in Every Color, Art in Every Form exhibition. And what I noticed and observed in that room was the way that you, in support of Black artists, laid out an experience for people that was meaningful and that represented community and connection, great conversation. And it was really special just to watch the way that you both curated a space and created an experience where people felt comfortable, seen, appreciated, heard, and respected. And that isn't always what happens in these spaces. So I just wanted to, on behalf of everyone who saw it, walk through, both in LA, I didn't see the one in New Orleans, but I imagine it was the same thing. Bravo. And thank you so much for doing that. We need that. We need that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Truly, truly. I mean, and that's exactly why we've been doing it, and why we got together to do this one. Is that's been really a lot of the main feedback was like, this space is needed.
Yeah.
So answering that call is really something that just keeps me motivated with all of this. So I appreciate that. And I'm happy that was your experience, truly.
Yeah. I actually spoke to a couple of people, and one in particular who I knew and saw there unexpectedly. And what he shared with me was that he had been feeling kind of depressed and had been isolating, and that he had forced himself to come out to this show. And I didn't know he was going to be there. And I don't think he knew I was going to be there either. And he talked about how much better he felt, and how walking into that space, he was able to kind of shed whatever it was, whatever that cloud was that was over him that day. And so art can do amazing things for people. Mm-hmm. And I think for the people who create it, for those who curate it, and also for those who get to experience it. So that was special. Thank you.
That's powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful.
It was. It was. So my first question was going to be, and I have some questions specifically for you, Josiah, and some for you, Kofi. But this is for whoever or both of you. And maybe we're kind of talking about that already, but when you think about the impact that you want your work to have, whether through art, conversation, community, or what you each do in your respective worlds of creation, what are you most hoping that it activates in other people?
For sure. I'll take it. I mean, something for me is like a driving factor really is like, I'll creating these things in these spaces is very much so the extent of me working with my strengths. And I don't know, it was a while ago I just started thinking, you know, setting the example, like taking the lead and showing what you can do is really, I don't know, I feel like that's the most I can do is set that example. So by creating these spaces, like what I've seen from it is people are going, oh, like answering that call as well. We need more of these spaces. They might see it a different way than I create it. And I've actually had conversations with different artists and different folks about, oh, you know, they didn't like how you did this part, so they went and created their own. That to me is the most fulfilling. Mm-hmm. To be able to set any kind of example that inspires the next person to do it, great, amazing, because we need more of these spaces. We need more iterations of it. We need more people thinking, how can I create platforms for others? It's just like, what can you do with the overabundance of your strengths? So as long as it conveys that, for me, that's you know, what kind of motivates all of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. Well said. Yo, to add to that, creating space and also just being a mirror, you know, and being an access point. You know, I think that's what I value most from my favorite artists, and also from some of my favorite people in my life, and some of the most effective and constructive people in my life, is that not only do they reflect back my truth and my magic, but sometimes they're a mirror. They're the mirror I need, you know? So it's not always what you want to see, and sometimes it's more than you even can believe. Mirrors and access points, you know? So certain songs and certain films, certain books activate certain parts of me that I either knew I had or that I didn't know I had, you know, which now sends me on a path that is either necessary or necessary, you know? So just being able to activate and through that activation offer the opportunity of healing, you know, and just revelation. I mean, that's a gift, you know, in itself. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think also being in spaces with, I think that's what I love most about being in creative spaces, is there's just this energy that is present in those rooms. you know, and where it's not just about the art on the wall or, you know, in the space. The art serves as almost like a cozy comforter over the experience for people. And that is so very different from the experience that many of us were brought up on. I know I certainly was, where you walk into a museum and you don't feel, you may admire the work and feel resonance, have the work resonate something to you, but the work, the art felt very separate from the audience. And for what you all have done, and I'd love to hear more about Tola, there's something about that for people where you can actually stand there and talk. You don't feel like you're in a library around like ancient artifacts. You're actually around the expression of something that activates that within you. And I think that is what great art spaces have the ability to do in support of both the artist and those who are in that room.
Yo, to Josiah's points, like spaces, safe spaces and like spaces, as a co-curator, to be honest, that's where I met Josiah, in the Black and Every Color space. I remember how that felt. I'm like, yo, we're partners, you know what I'm saying? Like, cool.
Let's do it,
but
yeah.
when we think of like Freeze Week, yo, I love the club. I love parties. I love parks. That environment, you can just tell it opened everyone up in a way that was so unique. I'm from LA and there's people from New York who hate on LA. But that night, that weekend, it was like everything was possible. Yeah. All you could feel was the possibilities. And again, that reflection, and shout out every single artist, because I mean, that's so much energy coming from all that different, creating an environment where we felt safe, we felt seen, and we felt you could feel the possibilities. And that was my takeaway. I'm like, man, like I knew what we was doing, but I didn't know it would feel this good, and I still can feel it.
Yeah, you all did it. Yeah. Okay, since you said shout out to the artists, do you mind shouting out the artists? Just shout out some artists. Let's just do it.
15
that's 20, okay.
Yeah.
Give them their moment.
Hudson Jr. Let's start there, because that boy had some amazing work in New Orleans, and we're able to bring his show out to LA. Absolutely
Repeat his
amazing.
name.
Jatairee Hudson Jr. Okay. Amazing. Autumn Breon, beautiful work, always so powerful. We had Brandon Gastinell, who's an artist we've worked with since day one, through with Black in Every Color, and Everything Balance Projects was in our first show, along with Brittney S. Price, who over the phone, someone saw her Made in America artwork and got the print, but then not only that, they said, wherever it is, I need it in my home. And for that to be one of the first works that we ever showed, and also be something that just happened in the last one, just absolutely amazing. You got some more New Orleans artists on there, huh?
Yo, I'm gonna have to jump in and shout out my boy Langston, man. Langston, Allston. Like what a honor to just be able to witness the greatness at this stage, like he's already great, and to know that he's also still unfolding and still telling his story. I'm like, I just can't wait to watch what he does. But also Compton the Third, Prosper, and also shout out Nakeyta and Prosper and all the artists behind the scenes who are also curating and working hard, sweeping, painting, framing, all the stuff that it took to really display the art in a way that it could be received. So the list goes on. Shout out Cole, J-Han, and everybody else. But everyone.
And I just wanted to note on the spaces part, right, is like something that really hit me in this like fine art journey, so to speak, is when someone had talked about the industry as the narrative. So when you go down, read books like Boom and just anything in contemporary art history, it's like, what is the narrative and how is it attached? And then you kind of compare that with historical writings. Historical writings are very much so, whoever might have won writes the history. And then you kind of compare that in the fine art world, and it's also the powers that be. What we noticed was there has not been a lot of room for context for our conversations and our art. It's very much so been in the context of, we had the boom in the market 2020, everything like that, where it's still the industry. So what I found fascinating was, okay, what does happen if we are able to, create the spaces to create our own context and our own narrative, and even evolve that into like, okay, we know that there's an ecosystem around art world, the fine art space and industry. We see those methods and movements. How do we apply that to our space? So I just look at it in that sense of we're creating more room for context of the conversations we're having. And I think that's what creates that kind of visceral feeling while we're in there is we go to a museum, it is kind of like a holy space for that work within the context of, art history narrative. But when we're able to create that holy ground for ourselves as well, I'm just always like fascinated on the feeling that you get from that. So
yeah, what I'd love to do is, and we're going to shout out, give me a list, send us a list of who those artists are in both locations. And we'll make sure that we kind of amplify that and get people to kind of take a look at their works.
Amazing.
Okay,
Thank
I'd
you.
love to do that. What did you each, or whoever wants to answer, what did you discover about yourself during the process of curating or co-curating this project?
How deep we want to go? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, we're going deep.
As
deep as you all will allow me to go. I'm not gonna.
It's a bit light, but also it's kind of funny. I was like, oh, these are real artists. I've always considered myself an artist, but when you sit in Langston's studio and just hear where he's creating from, and just the depth, it's like, it's one thing, oh, we're gonna put art on the walls, black art, ooh. But then when you hear the come from and you just hear the purpose and just the detail of expression, and like every single artist visit hit different, so I think that was probably the biggest, like the actual exhibits in the moment where everybody comes together. That was fun, but the takeaway of like that piece, the like getting a piece of each artist and really hearing where they created from, it was just inspiring. And also like, oh yeah, these are the real art, you know what I'm saying? So but also again, art in every form, it was inspiring. It just makes you want to level up and double down and make sure that you too are telling a story, and making sure you don't lose connection to that purpose. The same way a painter is most effective and most impactful when they're speaking from a place of truth, and it's personal. And that's something that's easy to lose when there's so many filters. As an actor, you got to wait to get a job. You got to get the audition. Like it's different than being a painter or a musician, where you can go to the studio and do what you want. But even still, the industry and the business and all of that stuff can somehow contaminate that truth and that purpose. So just seeing all the artists that we interacted with still have that connection to their come from, that was really powerful for me.
Yeah. And very courageous.
Very courageous.
To kind of put your soul on a thing, or, on a thing, whether it's a physical piece or creating it on a canvas. I've always seen art in every expression as, or in every form, since I'm talking to you too, as like such a bold kind of declaration of the skills, the talent, the gifts that you have.
I mean, it's so much vulnerability, right? When you put your life's practice into one 36 by 48 painting, and then also dare enough to go show it to random people, hundreds, thousands, and then also go like, this is what I do for a living. I mean, it's very brave, honestly.
All right, can we talk a moment about setting the vibe? If you're anything like me, your space needs to feel good in order for you to feel good. And that's why I created the Shaping Freedom line of candles. It's not just about ambiance, but really about how you align yourself internally. These are more than just candles. They shift your energy. Whether you're journaling, meditating, working out, or just taking a moment for yourself, these scents are curated to ground you, lift you up, and bring you back home to yourself. They also have an 80-hour burn time and scents that are designed to evoke feelings of alignment and internal congruency. And we can all use that. Go to shop.shapingfreedom.com and check them out. Find the one that speaks to your spirit, or buy all 4, and let them burn with intention.
anything that I learned from this though is like how important really communication and the team is on this. When I was first introduced to Kofi and everything, I was just letting him know, like, I've done a lot of these things by myself, to the point where I'd had artists come in and offer like, hey, can I hang that? I was like, no, I got it. Where that would happen behind the scenes, because there was a little bit of pride in me too, going like, I'm bootstrapping this, but I want to give the full service. So y'all drop it off, it'll be, you come back, it gets hung up. So very hyper independent in that sense. But this project, we were working with the team, Kofi, Nakeyta, Audrey, and every day was grind time. And it took very quickly learning how to operate with one another, how to speak with one another, and also like putting our own things down to go help the other persons. And I don't know, I don't think we kept count, but like multiple, like 18-hour days type thing. But through that, honestly, it was just, very quick understanding of each other, and honestly, like learning that, okay, this is compatible. This is where one person can stop and the other person can continue. It was honestly really great. And just like in that role, you got to put the hat back on, because the artists then come in and they go, all right, y'all running the show. Like, we're the special guests. And we're like, okay, cool, it's still not done. So to keep that poise as well, and then be those leaders of this space is.
I learned some new skills from Josiah. He's like, yo, I do electrical. I'm like, you do electrical?
Oh, wow.
What are you talking about? I'm like, this guy's like, yo, like, I'm like, yo, by any means necessary. Like, I admire that so much, man. Like, I was like, yo, let me fight. He's like, yo, I could hang that. I was like,
wow.
I cannot.
That's good. It's like knowing where your strengths are,
yeah,
right?
I mean, we needed
all the things.
We needed a light bulb hung. It's like 12 a.m. Shows the next day. I was like, you know what? I literally did this last week for a friend. Let me just.
Right.
I didn't know that you do electric work.
I would not guarantee my work to anyone, like certified, but I haven't burned a spot down. So
I was running a little late because my garage wouldn't close this morning, and I was like, damn it, I wish I knew what to do with this.
See, I figured that one out. Yeah.
I'm hoping it's resolved. What did you learn about leadership by watching the other in action?
I think leadership is also very brave, to be able to put yourself aside for the purpose of service, and just being able to navigate your own emotions. And like Josiah said, man, which I relate, we spend so much time getting it done, having to do it by ourselves, kind of like that lone wolf, independent by any means necessary, but to be able to share that weight and to be able to trust the people around you, and in return to be able to learn things about things you don't know, and to also learn about yourself, and to also just be able to rest and rely and depend on something outside of yourself, which is so healthy, in a healthy way. It's inspiring, again, because it's like, yo, I mean, random, but like, shout out Obama. Like, what's it like to lead a whole country? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just trying to put on an exhibit, but there's levels, there's levels, and like, that's an art form in itself, and it's a skill set that's abundant. There's no cap, there's no ceiling on how important and how far you can go, as a leader. So again, just inspired, and just like, motivated,
Yeah. And that's something I actually like really saw in Kofi as we went through this process. Was the guy's got taste, and he can get very, very specific in what he's looking for in the outcome. And for me, my style has very much so been like, set the stage and then whatever falls in place. But what I found was like, he knows how to get things done very quickly and very well. I'm not saying I don't, but his style in which he does it, I appreciate very much so. And it's something that I noticed and clocked while we were doing this, and going like, oh, there is room for me to say this thing or that thing, to even get this thing done in quality and in time, where, might give myself and others a little bit more grace leeway in that sense. But really just, I think he identifies really well those moments where you have to take the action. As a leader, it's like, hey, everyone's here. We got to get this thing moving. Where sometimes I might take the long road and kind of smell the rose a little bit, kind of ponder on it, but still get it done. But so yeah, definitely like just action. Learn that, or notice that from Kofi for sure.
He's speaking about himself, by the way. Everything he said, vice versa, like genuinely.
There you go.
Genuinely.
I think that's what a great collaboration is about. It's, we don't all come to the table with the same set of circumstances or experience or skill set. And I think a great collaboration looks like coming to the table with what you have, with all of what you have, and allowing each other to shine and to lean into your strengths and elevate your weaknesses if you need to. So I think that is an incredible model for people who are, thinking about, I want to collaborate. That's a word that people throw around so often, like, you want to collaborate.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, but there's something to it. Like, you have to step into some bravery. You have to step into some vulnerability and the ability to trust and to allow another person to shine. And so that, just even in the way you're describing the experience post that exhibition, I think is a great lesson for people who are listening. It can't be all about any one person and what any one person has to bring. It takes two. What does emotional wellness look like for each one of you? Like, how do you create space for it in your personal and your creative life?
That's a great question.
I'll say these big questions, Lizanne. You got to relax.
I will not.
Emotional wellness. Right now, my word is stability. And just stability. I think that with abundance, sometimes it could come scatteredness. Just a lot coming from different places. You're trying to multitask, and there's just an abundance of, isn't that life? Where do I go? What do I eat? Who do I talk to? Like, what do I focus on right now? So there's so much that I realize, even in success, even in power, etc., that we can't control. So really being able to concentrate on what's in my bucket and remain focused on that despite the influxes, the ups and the downs and etc. That's kind of where I'm at now, because to me, the stability creates sustainability, because if you can remain stabilized, you can remain consistent, and you can remain effective, and you can remain of service. And I'll talk about my plants or my dogs, since I don't have kids yet. But you can't, there's no off day. You know what I'm saying? And even if there is, that has to be in rhythm, because you will have to return to feed that dog, water that plant, and there's a dependency, especially when you're operating the ecosystem, so stability is like an anchor right now.
Can I share something before you go?
Please.
So for me, it's routine. I move around a lot. I have a lot going on. I'm often juggling multiple things at the same time. And the more I step into the things that I want to do, the more demand there is on me. And so I had a lesson recently where I was just zooming all over the place, talking about plants. And I have a lot of plants. I love plants. They just make me feel good. And so I left my plants and I asked somebody to water my plants for me. And I said, what I do, could you take them outside in the back, just really drench them, let them sit in the sun for a little bit, and then bring them back in, but just let them kind of absorb that. And this person who was really trying to help.
They left them outside?
Jacked my plants up. I hope she's not listening, or maybe if she's listening, she knows. It's a friend of mine. And she jacked my plants up. And I got back, and my poor plants, and then she jacked them up and then tried to water them some more. I'm like, that's the worst thing you can do. So the point to it, though, was less about that happening, because they're going to live. We're going to be okay. I trimmed them, they're going to come back and all that. But the lesson in that for me was to make sure that I'm keeping my routines going no matter what's going on. And that's part of my routine. It's something I do. I water them on a routine basis. And so that reminded me Kofi, of that, and how important it is that no matter what you're doing, and even when you have an abundance of the things that you want that are coming your way, that can be challenging, right? It's harder than it looks. How important it is to know what that, that bottom line undercurrent of routine and, to your word, stability is, because when those things are taken care of, everything else is okay.
Yeah.
I can't show up fully if everything else that is supporting me, including the ability to hang out with my plants or my family or the other things that kind of keep me going. If I'm not paying attention to that, if I'm raggedy back there, whatever I produce is going to wind up with a little bit of that rag.
Powerful, and I relate. Yeah, powerful.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's been a big topic for me lately. Especially going through this last project, which took us from September through February, just like nonstop. Which was me deciding to take all the time that I had and do something that I absolutely love doing. All passion, and every moment, even the hard parts, was like, well, this is what you've asked for. Coming out of that, it felt silent. It was like, wait, what's going on? And I had realized it's that, everything was put into that every moment of the day, but what I wasn't allowing myself was the space for myself as well to have that consistent routine. There was the point of the stability, loved what I was doing, but not providing that the self-care time. So like the running, the working out, the meditations in the morning, the ritual, so to speak, of things that I might not do every single day consistently, but still there's some consistency within that routine that keeps it steady. I had to actually go back to the drawing board and go, oh wait, what is my ritual? What is my 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. On Wednesdays? What time am I providing to myself? And really build that out again, because through this very demanding time, which wasn't by anyone else's choice but mine, I kind of lost that. Yeah. But what really hit me was, especially being in this entrepreneurial creative role, is I had to remind myself, like, every moment of the day is something I decide to do. So what am I doing with that? It's not that I have to micromanage every minute, but it is, at the end of the day, how many boxes are checked of things you felt like doing or decided to do, and how is that keeping you stable? How is that keeping you sustainable through the ups and the downs? So that's been the work happening now, is like reminding myself and getting back to that place of, I know I'm better with routine and structure. So no matter where I'm in the world, what I'm working on, what does not change, because then I don't change. Yeah.
I'm working on that.
There you go.
Yeah, me too.
So, I mentioned before, can you tell us something about Tola? When you mentioned it, when we saw each other back in February, your eyes lit up when you talked about it. So you said something about it in passing. So what is Tola?
So Tola's the other LA, here in New Orleans, Louisiana. I moved out to New Orleans for work 2016, so that's almost 10 years ago now.
Wow.
I fell in love with the city. It just became, I grew up here, and a lot of, I was 21 when I moved to New Orleans. So all of that being said, I spent my last 10 years out here, experienced so much. Tola really is like a means of preservation. If I really simplify, I needed somewhere to put all my plants. B, and I needed somewhere to put all of my memories and all of my experiences. And I also want to be able to appreciate my memories and collaborate. What new memories can we create here? And how can we incubate and create a space that is regenerative? And not only am I putting stuff in, but through that preservation, it's giving us something back. And to add to that, it's Tola, or this building, this house, was built in 1847. So it's 180 years old, or going on 180 something. I mean, we already know what was happening in 1847 in the South. You know what I'm saying? So to be a young Black man and to take that step and to acquire this space and to knowing that it's a shared space for us, like specifically, we're not closing the doors to other people, but like we are prioritizing young Black artists and Black people and our stories. And and more than anything, it's an experiment and an act of service, and an act of obedience. So it's still being developed. It will, by God's grace, be expanded and sustained, but more than anything, it's just like a step in the right direction. It's what I've always wanted to see. It's what I imagined coming to this city. It's what I imagined as a young artist. And so now I'm like, oh, how can we create it? How can we make it a reality?
You said that it was an act of obedience.
Yeah. Yeah, obedience is not always easy.
It's not. No, it's not.
I remember 2020, we're all inside, and I had a condo not too far from here. And again, I had like 100+ plant. Like that was the only thing open during the pandemic. So I just kept going to the plant store. And I probably had like 30 or 40 before. And then like, I was like, yo, and there's a whole nother lesson there. You can't just go get more plants. You gotta take care of what you got.
Yeah.
Hard lesson. But I just remember I heard it clearly. It was like, time to do this for real. It's one thing to have a condo and decorate it and make it beautiful, but I know that was my next step in like independence and agency. And also just like, I knew I wanted to buy some property, but I also know that I wanted it to be a shared space. It's not like, oh, this is my house, I'm gonna put up some portraits and lock the door. But when I'm not in the city, and even, if I want it to be a space that I could share with my friends, share with other artists, and somewhere we can co-create and utilize to like, just like, incubate and move forward. So it just was a download. I can't say it was like, I'm gonna create Tola and make this da. It's just like, I want to acquire property. I want it to be a shared space. Oh shit, Tola. And just that development is like honestly what we're still experiencing, So like now it's a lot more clear. But Lord knows, again, I had to remove myself and really listen and continue to listen, because it's like he kept sculpting it in my mind. Like I thought I heard and I did and I listened, but sometimes you got to take time. I thought I heard and I just ran. And it's like, slow down. I know you like right direction, but you can't cheat the process. You know what I'm saying? You can't skip steps. And even in obedience, there's still an education process, So like in the learning curve and being young, I'm just excited. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. You ain't never bought a house before. You ain't never renovated a house before. You ain't never, so it's like grown up lessons. But that's also what I can now pass on to the people around me who are yet to like take that step. And every second and every dime was worth it, So yeah, man.
Yeah, I think that obedience is probably the hardest thing. And I appreciate that you saw in that there's like that download, but then you have to continue listening. It's not just like go do this thing and then you're like standing there. It's like
we're done. There
are things in the middle. There's an in between.
Like what?
It's not because you got the download for a reason. It was for those lessons, and then at the end you get to share or be of service to other people and other artists that do that. HeraHub Carlsbad is a co-working space and member community designed to empower entrepreneurs. More than just a workspace, HeraHub Carlsbad is a business accelerator and a connected network of successful entrepreneurs. Imagine a collaborative, serene, and spa-inspired environment where you can thrive. Our unique community allows each member to be both a guide and a student, fostering leadership and continuous growth for both you and your business. Experience an uplifting, supportive atmosphere that will elevate your entrepreneurial journey. For more information about HeraHub Carlsbad or to schedule a tour, visit herahub.com/Carlsbad. We also have locations in Temecula, Irvine, Washington, D.C., and HeraHub Carlsbad is one of 3 HeraHub locations in San Diego. the others being in Mission Valley and La Jolla.
And it was beautiful to see it come to life. Because I mean, when we were there, it was talking about, you know, conversations about really touching on the rest rejuvenation and like inspiration there. And these artists having the space to show their work and having, you know, us be able to bring so many people in to celebrate it. Like Tola was living, breathing its purpose. And I think, I mean, especially, I mean, I saw it on Kofi. It was like, being able to see it, like, you know, flags fully sailing and everything was like, okay, this had to happen to be able to see what we can continue doing in this space. So excited to really develop what's going on there with the arts and everything too.
Yo, just to add to that, I was such a creep. Like I would walk up to the house and I see Josiah on the balcony, Nakeyta on her laptop over there. I'm like, they're using it. Like the space is used. Like it's like, oh shit, like this is why. And like, of course, that just like multiplied, and then the art goes up, and then the moments are happening, then people are meeting, and then but I'm like, I spent years just hoping I wasn't crazy, you know, like hoping I wasn't crazy. I'm like, and by myself, you know, like not like I'm looking around like, not only am I alone and lonely, but am I crazy too? Like shit.
That's the name of the next show, honestly.
But to see my people like in here, and like I said, man's just putting up light, like, yo, by any means, and to just see like the tribe come together as we still get to know each other. It's not like we're 10 years deep, but like that instant just understanding, you know, and again, just being able to like set ourselves aside for the act of service. Yo, I'll never not like that. That's like, that was the biggest gift. Like that was like, I could just, yo, pre-exhibit, I was like, yo, I'm done. I could just stop. Like we don't even have to keep going. Like like I'm done, you know? So yeah.
That's fantastic. So tell us about Valence Projects and what inspired you to create it, and how you took marketing and advertising, like how that kind of feeds into this project.
For sure. Valence Projects was born during COVID. At that time, I was transitioning out of a marketing role for a startup that I was working for out here, which brought me out to LA. And that had started slowing down quite a bit. And I'd started working with just street artists, muralists. At the time, I was just doing my like side hustle photography, taking photos of things and everything, and working with these artists. Like I would just like, you know, you can go outside, you can go shoot these murals because there ain't nobody around. It's just you and the artist. And we were getting some like really beautiful shots. But I'm going and speaking to the artist like, oh, like you have an audience, you have a platform. And every time we take photos of these, people are resharing them, their message of inspiration and hope. And people are really resonating. Now, from my experience in marketing, I went to school for marketing, worked for for Red Bull for a long time, and was able to see what they were able to do with their brand. And for something as silly as just a sugary drink, they get 90,000 people out to one location to see just an activation happen, and everyone's wearing the shirt. And I think they were telling us for every one they would give away, they would sell 4. So it was like, to be able to have something down packed like that, okay, commercial stuff, okay, capital, okay, I see what you're doing. But I've got this artist in front of me who is speaking as like a voice for their community, and I don't see the same engagement. What is going on? And especially when you have a time like COVID where, you know, there's just a lot of talks about just community and how people are going to like come together and everything. Through those times, I took all that and said, okay, if I can take the tactics and strategies that these major brands do with their products and their platforms, and we start having these conversations with these artists about, okay, we've got the photos, you did this massive mural, it's basically a billboard for your conversation. How can we leverage different relationships and partnerships to create a campaign around this that's not just to sell more products, but actually get your audience and your community engaged? So really everything that I do with Valence Projects is through that process of, okay, I understand the commercial marketing and branding strategies, but what happens when we have a creative leader attached to that that's actually directly benefiting their community through the work they're doing. So whether that's through, impromptu projects and just something that they're creating, or it's through a brand partnership where we're saying, hey, brand, yeah, you can come in and work with this artist, but this is for the community. So you can be a part of what we're doing, but it can't be yours, essentially. So really just, impact campaigns and everything like that. And Valence Projects was born out of, I've always had fascination with like sociology and psychology. So I was just looking up different things, and the valence chart came up, and it was the scientific gauge for emotion. So most positive valence is joy. You'd see that on the chart. Pain, everything is negative. So everything, and I call it valence when it's really valent anyway.
That's okay.
But so the ethos there was, with everything that we're doing, we hope for the most positive reading on that chart. So as we develop more, it'd be great, with clients and people we work with, to be like, hey, take this, But truly, it's that, everything that we put into the work, want it to be positively impactful, not just for positioning and marketing purposes, but literally, physically, emotionally, to the fact that we'd be able to actually read that on a scientific, meter. And then that kind of just branched out into all these different activations that we're doing. Working with the artists, I saw what they were able to do there, but I wanted to create something for myself and for my community, and really just show like every part of Valence Projects, which is really just an expression of all my passions. So that led into Black in Every Color.
I love how you both have taken a step into doing the things that you have felt called to do, or the things that are important to you. I haven't asked you, and I don't know if you're willing to share, like how did you step into the career that you're in?
It happened organically, I have two other brothers. So it's three of us in total, and I have a wonderful African mother. So she would walk around LA, Beverly Center, with her 3 chocolate babies, and the whites say, "Oh my God, the kid is so cute,
so cute! Look at his hair."
So it started with like modeling and print ads, and just real light, but there was a response. And fast forward, I think I'm about 16, 17, and I'm just like really 16, and I'm looking ahead. I'm like, I want to be this when I turn 18, and and I'm like, really on my spiritual journey. And I just really took being 18 serious, because I was like, 18 is the first milestone, and then 21. That shit meant a lot to me. It really did. It's kind of funny, but I'm back at that place 10 years later. That's how I feel about 30, and I'm 31, clock is ticking. But long story short, it just checked all the boxes. I love production. I love people. I love traveling. I love being of service. And in a lot of ways, I was like, it's very brave to go to 1,000 auditions and book 10 of them or 5 of them. So just that process of putting yourself out there and trusting that there's something bigger than just, like the stat, it's like those one jobs would move the needle. As far you couldn't do 1,000 jobs even if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
In your head, you're like, you got to take 990 no's and still stay locked in, still stay, and I think I got addicted to that a little bit, because it just really, it made me feel alive, and I also it strengthened my relationship with spirit, because it's like I'm focused on. It's not about this, it's like, it's about why, and of course, Queen Sugar, the alignment there, working alongside Ava and Oprah, and being introduced to a city like New Orleans, and a character like Ralph Angel, and like having the conversations we were having. I'm like, this is what you were preparing me for, like, this is what you were preparing me for. I had my milestones and I had my ideas, and you always think why, and like God will use that as long as you continue to stay focused. And I'm still discovering the why. It doesn't stop at Queen Sugar, it doesn't stop at these exhibits, it doesn't stop at Tola, but again, staying connected to the purpose of being of service and being brave enough to obey. It's like I said, the obedience is not it applies to all areas. And there's certain areas where I can be more obedient than I can in others, you know? So now I'm trying to diversify and apply my obedience to all areas of my life. And that's the journey, man.
Hey.
That's the
I
journey.
love that. I love that. In the interest of time, really quick for both of you, you both have stepped into roles that I'm sure are personally fulfilling, but that also are in deep service to others. What can we do to support you?
I mean, just keep posted with what we're doing. Honestly, we've got different programs and events coming up, and then through honestly the rest of the year, what we'll be doing is just raising funds for TOLA, Black in Every Color, for the programs that we're putting out. Like, it has been of service and out of obedience, and what we found is like very philanthropic approach. We've got our own things going on, but we want to be able to continue these at the level that we know they can be at. Both very visionary on this kind of thing. So really that's what kind of continuation of the year is for. All these different activations and ways to show up as far as Black in Every Color goes. We'll be, supporting the community and getting more resources towards the programming and everything.
Okay.
Obedience ain't cheap, so here go my Cash App. It is,
Thank you. Tell them. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yo, Josiah just said it. Like, there's gonna be many opportunities to support and actually like plug in. Right now, like, yo, be great, and be a mirror to someone, and like make sure you're brave, because like I need it. I'm always, and I mean, I'll use you like as like just watching you obey, do your podcast, have these conversations, show up, make the trip. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And these kind of conversations are so healing and so necessary, whether they get all the attention or like whether one person sees it. I'm experiencing it, and it's very it's nourishing. It's what I need right now. So thank you. Yeah. Many ways to support. TBD, plug in, Cash Apps, wires, all that. You know what I'm saying?
And even beyond that, truly is like, this is all to create the platform to provide access for all these other artists. We just create the space. But in any way, shape, or form, right? Like, great, if all the money's there, it's that we need more opportunities to show more artists' work in more spaces, places, and research, like information, education, all across the board. Yeah. So
we see that. We see that. I think I am having this conversation because there is nothing more important to me than legacy, and legacy that's based, financially, yeah, that's all great, but emotionally and from a wellness perspective, and us passing that along, and you two taking the time to sit and have this conversation with me will help somebody. There's someone out there, some man or woman, young person of color who watches both of you and is looking for answers and looking for support just through hearing your story. I have an 18-year-old grandson named Xavier, and he's 18, and I know that for him, 18 is a huge milestone. He is treating it like it is just, he is in it. He's in his 18-year-old experience and milestone. And so I just want to thank you both for showing up the way that you do in the world. I want to thank you for showing up for yourselves and for, again, demonstrating and expressing what Black masculinity looks like, what it looks like when you take your life seriously and when you are obedient to your own voice and to the voice of Spirit, God, whatever you call it. So thank you so much for your generosity and sharing today.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for providing the space for us. Truly.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lizane.
You're welcome.